what you eat, what you buy, what you choose to do with every dollar that you make. And these aren't neutral choices, they're moral choices. And they're choices that either align with our higher beliefs or they don't. This is part 4 of my series on authenticity, and this might be the most practical application. We've talked about authenticity in general, authenticity in what you do for work, authenticity in where you live, but there's one place where authenticity can show up in our lives every day, multiple times a day, and that's in what you choose to consume. And I think this is one of the most powerful ways to practice authenticity, because unlike your career or where you live, things that take time to change, we can practice authenticity, Mr. Prickles, every single day in our lives with what we choose to consume. So let's talk about it. I believe the greatest capacity that we have as humans is to make choices that align with our beliefs and our true values. That's what separates us from living on autopilot. That's what creates meaning in our lives. Meaning isn't something you find, it's something you create. And you create it through authentic choices, choices that close the gap between what you do and what you believe. But here's what happens. We say that we care about certain things, and we know we care about things, but then we act in ways and we consume things that maybe support those things that we don't believe in. And it's not because you're a failure, it's because we live in a world where it's really hard to avoid contributing to some of these systems. It's easier, it's convenient, everybody else is doing it, and sometimes we just don't have the bandwidth or we don't have the time or energy to consume in a different way. Sometimes it's financial constraints. We can't afford to pay for something that costs more, but it's produced in an ethical way. But there's some things that we can control, and that's what I want to focus on. We say we care about workers' rights, but we support companies that exploit labor. We say we care about our health, but we eat food that makes us feel terrible. We say we care about animals, but we support systems that exploit them too. And that gap that's created between those things that we know we believe and then our actions and what we actually do is really harmful to, if anybody, it's harmful to us. That's cognitive dissonance that we're creating, and that's the opposite of authenticity in our daily lives. So this video is about helping to close that gap, choice by choice, specifically in what we choose to consume. Every dollar that you spend and every product that you support or company that you support is somewhat of a vote that you have. Demand dictates supply, but in a larger sense, I think making choices that aren't aligned with our belief system, even if we don't want to think about it because it's uncomfortable or it challenges us or it's truthfully really inconvenient, it contributes to harm that we don't believe in the world, yes, but it also harms us. It creates that gap between what we know we believe and what we do. Something that I've learned is living with that gap is more harmful to you than it is to anybody else. It's just a slower discomfort and a quieter one, but it compounds. Over a long period of time, I think it can do real harm to us. It can really erode us and our sense of selves and our power and agency over our own lives. So that's why I think what we consume is one of our most powerful choices that we have over the meaning that we're creating in our own lives and how we feel about ourselves. For me, at a really young age, this gap showed up with food. When I was 6 years old, before I could make many choices on my own, I chose to stop eating meat because as a really young child that I knew that I loved animals. And it really didn't make sense to me why I would be eating animals if I had a choice. And I think if I would have been older and had this realization, it would have been a lot harder for me to align my life and my choices with my truth and with my beliefs. I think when we're young, things can be really clear to us in a way that gets muddled by society and what everybody else is doing that keeps us from making choices that are authentic to us, no matter how off the beaten path they may be. I think that's what gave me the courage when I was only 6 to make the choice not to eat meat in a rural agricultural community. My parents let me make that choice. I was lucky enough that they let me, and I stayed vegetarian for 15 years. But as I got older, I started learning more and more about the dairy and meat industry too, and how they were just larger conglomerates of the meat industry and also exploiting animals in a way that I really couldn't get behind. And for years, I did not do anything about this because it was going to be really inconvenient for me and it was going to be really hard for me. I know I was making choices that were inconsistent with my beliefs, but I just kept going and I just kept shoving it kind of into the background, but it really did bother me. And when I was 21, I was in college and I was taking a class on existentialism and I was learning about authenticity and the very things that we're talking about now, how your choices that you make every day contribute to the meaning of your life. And I was learning about what we're talking about right now, how the choices that you make dictate the meaning of your life. And I knew that I was being called to make that change for myself. So I went vegan, and that was 9 years ago. And to this day, it's been one of the most powerful choices that I've made for myself. Even if I didn't think I was helping anybody or any animals or anything out in the world, I know that I'm benefiting from making that choice, if not for anybody else, for me, because I am making a bold choice to align what I eat every day with what I believe and choosing consciously not to contribute to systems that I can't get behind. And that does a lot in my day to day to contribute to that sense of meaning and connectivity that I have with the community and with myself. And I need to be really clear about something. I am not telling you to go vegan. I'm not here to prescribe this path to you or tell you what you have to do. There's a lot of other ways that I do not align my choices with my beliefs, and I have a lot of work to do. But I'm sharing this because it's my story. It's my small version of closing that gap in my own life that has gone a long ways in enabling me to create the kind of meaning that I want to be creating. And that's what this series is about. It's about authenticity and practice. For me, from a young age, that gap was food. For you, it might be something completely different, but the principle is the same. It's asking yourself, where is there gaps between what I believe and what I'm actually doing and consuming? And just being honest with yourself. We live in a world where it's almost impossible for us to be aligned 100% of the time. The systems that we are part of are too big, and the truth behind them is really too hidden most of the time for us to fully understand the choices that we're making. And the options sometimes are way too limited for us. We live in a system where it's hard for most people just to wake up and go to work and pay their rent, let alone worry about aligning every single choice that they make with their values. That's the reality. So it's really important for me to emphasize that the goal here isn't perfection, it's direction and it's intention. Are you moving towards alignment, or are you ignoring that gap and those gaps that exist because it's uncomfortable? And when you do start closing those gaps, even if they're small ones, there's a really powerful sense of meaning that comes along with it and peace. Not because you're better than anybody else, but because you're less at war with yourself and you're more aligned with what it is that you do believe. So food is just my story, but consumption is so much bigger than food. It comes down to clothing. Where do we buy our clothes, and are there alternatives that are more aligned? Do you care about your attention span and mental health, but spend hours scrolling on apps and platforms that were designed to be addictive? Do we care about representation and expanding our worldviews, but only watch things and consume media that reinforces our worldviews? This one's really challenging. Time. Do you say you value relationships and spending time with your friends and your family members, but make no time for it and prioritize other things? Do you say you value developing your own talents and your own creativities, but make no time for it? The pattern in these things is all the same. Things that we say that we care about and that we know that we care about, but that we don't put the time and effort into actually aligning with our actions. We say we care about something and then we make daily choices that contradict that belief. But here's the really good news, that every single day we get to choose again. You don't have to, and you really can't overhaul your entire life overnight. But you can make one choice today that's more aligned than choices you made yesterday. So if you're thinking, where do I even start? Here's what I'd suggest. Pick one area of your life. Maybe it's something that's the easiest or something that you care the most about. Whether it be food, clothing, the media you consume, how you choose to spend your time. And ask yourself, what do I really believe about this? And what are my actual choices? And don't judge yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Just notice. and be honest with yourself. Once you find some of those gaps that you would want to address, ask yourself, what would it look like to start closing that gap? If you care about the environment, what can you do to be more sustainable? If you care about animals, what foods could you eat that don't require their suffering or exploitation? If you care about your physical and mental health, what changes could you make to better support yourself? You don't have to do everything at once. Just pick one area and examine it. And then pay really close attention to how it feels to close that gap. And the more you practice living in alignment, the more natural it becomes. And the more proud of yourself you're going to feel. And the more meaning that you're going to be able to create in your daily choices through practicing authenticity. So this was part 4 of my series on authenticity, and that's why it was maybe the most practical one, is because we make these choices every single day, multiple times a day, about what we consume. Authenticity really isn't just about major life decisions and choices. It's about the small choices that we make every single day that contribute to our sense of who we are and our place in the world, the meaning that we're making for ourselves. What you buy, what you eat, what you give your time and attention to, and how you care for yourself. Those choices matter, not because you have to be perfect, but because they're your choices to make. And they tap into that greatest capacity that we have as humans to make choices that are aligned with our true beliefs. That's authenticity, and it starts with what you choose to consume. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.